My husband is aggressive when initiating sex and I don't know how to tell him I don't like it. My 38F husband, 41 meters, and I have a great relationship overall and love each other very much. I generally feel loved and respected by him. We've always had a good and active sex life. That being said, I feel like when he is in the mood, he has this habit of initiating sex by grabbing at me and rubbing on me and telling me how sexy I am. This could be out of nowhere, sitting on the couch, watching TV, in the kitchen cooking, wherever. Like a teenager, grabbing my boobs, vagina, kissing me passionately, etc., apropos of nothing. I used to think it was sweet and sexy that he was so excited about me that he'd just start grabbing my boobs or feeling me up and telling me how sexy I am, but it feels like now we've gotten in this routine where the only time he acts excited about me is when he's trying to have sex with me, and then he acts like this. I've told him I need a little more time to warm up, like conversation or snuggling or back rubs or something, and that I don't like the way he just starts pouring at me, but I also said it pretty gently because I don't want to make him feel rejected either. Either way, this is still his go to move. I guess when he initiates sex in this way, or starts just feeling me up out of nowhere, it feels like he just wants sex, not me asterisk, so that makes me feel objectified. I don't think he means it to come across that way. In fact, I think he'd be embarrassed if he knew I felt like this. We do playfully slap each other on the butt as a flirtation, which I don't mind, but I fear I've given him the impression that the way he initiates sex is somehow a turn-on for me because I don't want to hurt his feelings or make him feel rejected. I definitely don't want to dissuade him from trying to have sex with me, but when he's that aggressive it doesn't make me feel sexy, it makes me feel like I'm just a sex doll. How can I ask him to go about initiating sex in a slightly more subtle way? TLDR. Husband initiates sex aggressively and I don't know how to tell him I need him to be gentler without making him feel rejected. Update. I first want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to respond. It was eye-opening to see a lot of these comments. It's pretty amazing how people can see you better though the language that you're using, than you can sometimes see yourself. I realized that my issues surrounding his initiation techniques went much deeper. I think it really had more to do with a lack of communication in our relationship, which in turn was affecting my ability to trust him, which is why I think my reaction to something I used to like had turned into something negative. So, I sat him down and we talked. I told him how I was feeling, and he felt awful. He said I was the most important person in his life and he would never want to do anything to hurt me or our relationship. He was open with me that he has struggled with communication and maybe never really learned how to communicate in the most healthy ways, but he seemed to really want to learn and grow in this way together, and he is 100% on board with couples therapy. We talked for hours, and then we had sex, and I initiated. It was great, smiling face with hearts. I'm not saying this issue is solved, but I felt really good about our conversation and how we navigated it together, and I feel excited to go to therapy together to learn how to better understand how to communicate with each other about our feelings and needs. I feel incredibly grateful to have a partner who values my feelings and our relationship, and who is enthusiastic about trying to grow together and work on our issues as a team. Thank you all for giving me the confidence and some vocabulary to talk to him about how I was feeling. The conversation was not what I thought it would be, but I needed the support from y'all to push me to have this hard conversation, and I'm so glad I did. So much love and gratitude to you all. Oh, except for the couple of people on here making horribly misogynistic comments. Those people can go fuck themselves. But to the rest of y'all, you rock. A million thanks again, heart.
Subtlety isn't called for. Directness and honesty is. He's hurting your feelings, so why are you tiptoeing around his? If your marriage is strong, you should be able to communicate about anything, and this is something that needs to be clearly communicated.
You already tried subtle and it did not work. Now go for direct. Just directly tell him this isn't working for you, and you need him to not grab at you, but to warm you up instead. It's far better to communicate directly than to become bitter and negative around and then be unable to ever fix your life and have to divorce. Direct communication can potentially keep things from being ruined forever, which is a serious risk if he doesn't change his behavior.
Everything you just told us sounds like excellent things to tell him directly. Asterisk, here's how the way that this behavior makes me feel, here's what would instead help me feel better, here's what we've been doing that I like and want to continue. Add to this, that you also want to know his thoughts and feelings about this, making sure to validate his feelings and intentions, even if you disagree with how these have translated to his approach to and you would like to work with him on an approach to that you can both be comfortable with, and you have an A+ approach.
Sorry, I meant, how can I ask him to be more subtle about his approach? I don't have an issue being direct, but I'm wondering how to do that effectively and in a way that is still kind. I've felt pretty avoidant about this topic, and it's starting to make me avoidant, but honestly I don't know how to talk about it with him, and I'm not usually a person who struggles to communicate. I don't know why this is so hard for me to talk about with him. Cool, okay, could we maybe whiteboard this a little? How does this sound, Grimace? When you grab at me like that, it makes me feel objectified and like you just want not because you're trying to connect me with. That makes me feel objectified, and it's been making me want to avoid because I haven't been able to talk to you about how I've been feeling, and I want to change that. It would make me feel better if you kissed me softly, rubbed my back, or told me stuff you appreciate about me before you start trying to have with me. I love our life because X, Y, Z, asterisk, I can fill in that blank privately asterisk, and I love that you initiate often. I love you, and it's important to me that we can communicate about what we both, and how do I bookend this conversation?
Your words hanging in the air, and allow them to have they weight. They absolutely, you've expressed yourself. His reaction is going to tell you everything you need to know about this part of your isn't a high school debate. This is your personal experience, your psychological, physical, and emotional boundaries being breached in an intimate relationship.
Gentle touches. Ouch. When he's being too rough. I love it when you caress me softly like this. This is nice, when he's not.
When talking to your husband, you can use some of the things you said here. Tell him, I definitely don't want to dissuade you from initiating, but it doesn't make me feel sexy or turned on when you suddenly grab at my body. I know this is how we've typically done things in the past, but I would be more excited about if you initiated more gently, such as with kissing that starts slow and builds up to be more. Was just paraphrasing text you wrote. He might be defensive about it at first, but as long as you can both have an honest and respectful conversation, and if he makes changes, this seems like something that wouldn't escalate into a bigger issue.
You already asked him, and it didn't do anything. Now you enforce the boundary. When he starts doing this, you lean away and say, I'm not sure if I was clear, but when I said I needed more of a warm-up, I meant that this style of initiating foreplay doesn't work for me anymore. Can we cuddle or kiss instead? If he feels rejected, then it's a good thing you married an adult man who can hear a woman he wants to have with say no, and respect that, not take it as an insult. If that isn't the man you married, then your marriage is in much deeper trouble.
2 things. 1. Nothing you've written in your post is unkind. I think you could sit him down, tell him you've been struggling with how to bring this up, and read him if your relationship really is strong. I think the most upsetting part will be how long it's been going. I doubt he wants you to feel objectified, and the sooner you tell him directly so he can change his behavior, the less unwarranted but understandable guilt you both will think. If you address it as a team solving a problem, then he can work on changing up his approach, and you can work on letting him know what does it for you now. Best of luck. Edit emphasis.
It's not arousing or enjoyable to be groped, and even if groping me is not your intention, that's what it feels.
Some of the things you are saying has me thinking. Has your partner stopped doing the loving things that he used to do that weren't in an effort to initiate? When I felt the way you were feeling, it was exactly this. I miss the back rubs or the phone calls at night or the good morning text. When those started to subside in my partnership, anytime my partner initiated, I only felt valued for my and not for my entire being. And it did feel aggressive, because for most women is an all-day building up affair, not just some one-off grab your and get in the mood to bang affair. This might be something to express to him. Tell him you want to reignite the excitement of when you were first together. I hope this is helpful.
Greater than, I'm not sure if I was clear, but when I said I needed more of a warm-up, I meant that this style of initiating foreplay doesn't work for me. Comment. The word anymore is the kindness you are looking for up. It just says things have changed for you and you need something else. Not a condemnation of the past.
Your husband is aggressive when initiating because it always ends in.
The last part is important and not many have mentioned it. When effectively communicating about desires, It's very helpful for the message to include not just what isn't liked but what exactly would be liked instead. List some things that do make you feel wanted for you so he can make you feel that way.
This right here is why the world needs feminism, as a tiny would hazard a guess that most women do not get turned on at having their grabbed out of nowhere, and yet that's sort of the prevailing move for large parts of the male population. Or at least the expectation of it. In cases where the woman just refuses and rejects such crass, it all has to do with the social teaching that the man's pleasure is all that matters. Men, women, we're all victims of this. This is why it baffles me to see some women proudly proclaim to not be feminists, while knowing their partners, and being sure that this is exactly how they behave behind closed doors, and often in front of the door as well. It breaks my heart.
Don't ask for subtlety, that will be confusing. Describe for him the types of foreplay that would turn you on and ask him to specifically incorporate those into his approach. It may be uncomfortable at first, but these conversations are necessary and don't need to have any negative overtones. Think of it like giving him the secret formula to turning you on. I don't know many men who would be offended by receiving that sort of advice.
I know, it's so heartbreaking that she's over here stressing about hurting his delicate feelings, while he's like grabbing and groping her and not giving a about her feelings. Because you know, since she's not comfortable with it, she's wincing, she's cringing away from him. She's showing in all kinds of physical ways that she's not happy, and he does not care.
Caveman voice. Man do act. Man get reward. Act is good for man. This is solid advice and precisely what I would do in Op's situation. Great way of wording it too. Hope Op uses this.
Something to consider is if he switches his tactics from crassly groping at you to being more sweet, gentle, whatever, there's a chance that he will only treat you that way when he wants. And then you will be in the exact same spot you are at right now, where you feel like he approaches you in a specific way for and is not genuinely intimate with you without a clear expectation of and pressure for that sounds like a possibility. I recommend you sit back and think of the root cause here. It sounds like you feel objectified and his current method of objectification is being rough, and if the suggestions you present will actually help solve that issue.
To add to this excellent advice, tell him these things outside of the moment. Don't throw that out at him as a reaction to him doing this, because that'll set him up to feel rejected and become defensive about it. Sit him down and start this conversation over a cup of tea or whatever else works.